I'm Matthew McCabe. Welcome to Miracle Voices. Each episode, we will be delving into stories of forgiveness, healing, and transformation that have come about from integrating the principles of the book A Course in Miracles. If you want to learn more about A Course in Miracles, visit www.acim.org. If you'd like to visit the Miracle Voices site, please go to www.miraclevoices.org. If you feel inspired to make a love offering, please visit us at miraclevoices.org/donate. All donations go to support the work of the Foundation for Inner Peace, the publisher of A Course in Miracles. Now here's your program. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Miracle Voices. This is your co-host, Matt McCabe. I'm here with my co-host, Tam Morgan. Tam, how you doing today?
Doing well. Glad to be here as usual.
Oh, good.
I don't say that about everything. I just want you to know.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I should, but I don't.
And our guest today is Cay Villars. Cay, welcome to Miracle Voices.
Thank you very much. Very much. The course is beyond the beyond, but you guys already know that. So it's beautiful. It's a privilege to get to speak about it.
I love beyond the beyond. That's always such a good expression.
Now, Cay, where are you sitting in the world right at this moment?
Well, I'm in New Orleans right at this minute. Right at this minute, that's where I am. But I'm usually in San Juan, Cozumel, Mexico.
Okay.
Or I can be anywhere, wherever he sends me.
A lot of comfort foods in New Orleans. Do you go out and listen to live music ever?
No, that hasn't come in as guidance, but I did have crabs yesterday in guidance, so that worked out well.
Oh, good.
We're hoping the kind that you eat.
Yeah.
Just be really clear, you have no idea different letters that can come in from our listeners.
Yeah. She's here all week, folks.
Crabs. Blue crabs from the bowl.
Okay. A good place to start is maybe just tell us how A Course in Miracles came into your life.
Well, if it's okay, I'm going to start with the end in mind, because one of my cousins said to me, I didn't know what to tell my mom about what I was doing. And he says, well, just say that it's Saul to Paul on the road to Damascus. And I think that's the closest description of, because I think in my mind, I was probably killing a lot of Christians. So, but the course first came in when I heard Tony Robbins speak with Marianne Williams. But it was quite a number of years, actually. But what I see now is Jesus was working on me well before the course, because I was coaching as a volunteer in the prison system. And I wasn't looking for love. I wasn't looking for God. I knew love was important. Okay. I knew, but you don't really know what it is, but it seemed to be important. And I think the voice came first, actually, because I was coaching in a coaching session in the prison, and this woman came in. I was new too. I mean, this is definitely Holy Spirit guided, but I didn't know at the time to coach in prison because it was such a stretch. And I'm seeing that about Holy Spirit assignments. But anyway, and this woman came in and I said, what do you want to work on today? And she said, well, I keep having these memories of my boyfriend getting in a fight, and I stabbed him 7 times and killed him. And, that for a new coach was a bit of a, stop me in my tracks there. But I was like open, and I was thinking, well, guilt, maybe guilt is real. Maybe she deserves to feel guilty. That's where my mind was. That's the starting point. But I heard this voice say, if the guilt continues, it will be repeated. And so it was for me, and I started working with her. And from that point, this voice would coach me when I'd go into so many things, so many stretches. But if I had known that was Jesus, I would have been really upset, because I didn't want to have anything to do with, I was Catholic, nothing with Christianity. But I coached for quite a few years, and I trusted the Spirit. Whatever that voice was, I didn't know it was Spirit. I didn't know it was Jesus. And then finally the course, it came several times, for many, it probably does, because I was helping to develop a program for the Kabbalah in prison. And I came across the people from Endeavor. They were doing a prison program and they shared their program on the course. So I was getting like little bites of it, but then it took several years. In like 2010, I started the course itself. And, I was like, oh my gosh, it took me 4 years to get through the course. And I thought the devils were going to get me. I'm telling you, this is a real conversion job Jesus had to do, But, I did dedicate myself. I mean, I thought, devils came out. I went to the hospital. I was having heart palpitations. What I didn't see in it, now I can ask Jesus about it. And I do want to say it is a voice and anybody can hear it. I mean, that's the point. The whole point of the course, hear Jesus and let him coach you. But anyway, what can I say? I thought I was dying, but Jesus is telling me I was forgiving so much that you release a lot of energy. He says that. And of course, there's tension with these miracle denials. And I was releasing so much energy. I went and had a brain scan. I was having mystical experiences, but I didn't know. That's why it's so good to have mighty companions, because, but at that time I didn't. And I didn't know how to interpret, and I didn't hear the voice well enough. Now I can ask him everything. And I said, Jesus, did I need to go to the ER? No, but you think you're dying. The number of times I thought during the course I was going to die of something, particularly in following that voice. But you don't, it's everything. Of course, I'm like I'll say that every line in that course is true. For anyone who wants to see it, every line. But again, he had to convince me because I wasn't looking for God or the course or anything like that. But I did take it and I started talking to him I could see it now as I look back. I'd ask questions, Jesus, is this right? Or is that? And so through taking the course, and I finished in 2014, and there was just a part of me that needed to know. And I can see the work in the prison with so much forgiveness work. It was all for me. And I was still in 2010 or 11 timeframe, still coaching in prison. And Jesus came in a mystical vision. It's very humbling, because our mind is so crowded. You can't actually get the whole message. Does that make sense? Even of the course, you can't get it when you first read it. It's like, I'm thinking, there's something about this is true and life's not working, but is it really true? I was kind of questioning it, but I was meditating on the course and Jesus came in a mystical vision, and he placed this light in my hands, this blue light. And you can see it in the symbol. We have a little symbol that joining in light. And I didn't understand it. I kind of accepted it. I don't know what I was really thinking about it, but he said this, do this in memory of me. I remember that. Do this. And he put this light in my hands. So the next time that I went into the prison system, he was so angry. Oh my gosh, he was mad because his mother didn't get to go to her funeral. And he was really mad. And I said, I don't even know how I knew this. Somehow Jesus communicated with me. I said, there's a light that we share. And I put my hands out and he cupped his hands in mine. I said, focus on the light and put everything in the light. And I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm doing, but somehow you just know. I guess it was communicated to me to do it. And he put his upset in the light, and it just in seconds it melted. And he started talking like the wisdom of the ages. I didn't realize when you have a miracle, that's the time you're going to hear, your mind's going to be the most open to the spirit. And so it was just teaching me the speed, how fast the correction was. And he was teaching me about light. And then, but I thought, I'm going to get thrown out of this prison. Nobody touches anyone. And I'm putting my hands out. So I went in a couple of weeks later. I ran into this guy in the hall, and he was livid because he had been in prison for 30 years. And the parole board wasn't letting him out. Was this for me or what? It was a perfect metaphor for seeing and being in prison. And he came into the coaching session. I did the same thing. I said, well, there's a light we share and place it in the light, this upset in the light, and it would melt in the light. Again, speed of correction. And I use that so many times in healing. My mind is just put everything in the light, put it in the light. And I started to learn, I didn't know that light didn't have color to it. It's what I could understand at the time. I didn't realize it was colorless, changeless, infinite, but it's the way it was communicated to me. And so I even showed it to my 7-year-old niece. Now, this is profound. I said, well, what happens in the light? Because she was upset. And she said, it melts trouble. It was so profound. And then I said, well, what do you see in the light? She says, all is forgiven. And I'm thinking, I have been forgiving my brains out with a course, and she gets it like in one, innocence. She got it right away. So it was just like one thing after the other, even though I can see there's so much to forgive. It takes, my experiences for me, a lot of forgiveness. But I did start in 2014, I sold my house. And I started really looking. It's like there was a part of me needed to know, is this true? Is this true what Jesus said? So that I could see myself, with various assignments, like, he sent me to Jerusalem and I cried my eyes out, Jesus, I don't know what I'm doing here, kind of thing. There are a lot of things like that. But somehow he'd come through. He'd come through, or it would be everything they say, time and space rearrangements. It's so hard to explain that, but it's exactly, I just tell everyone, look, follow the course, because every word he says in there, you'll see is true. Every one. The big issue is the selective hearing. And that's what he really had to heal and build. I can see every assignment that he'd send me on. He sent me to Bali. He sent me to India. He sent me to, again, Jerusalem. And every assignment I would have to trust, because I'd be going, Jesus, I don't want, like when he sent me to Mexico, I said, Jesus, I'll go to Mexico, but whatever you do, don't make me ride a bus. Well, how many times do you think I've ridden? Like he knew every place I was afraid. He sent me up to a retreat up in Sweden. And I was like, oh, Jesus, whatever you do, because I was in Portugal at the time. And I said, Jesus, I can't ride the underground, the M, or, don't make me switch trains or that kind of thing. But what did he have me do? Every single time I had to step outside the comfort zone. On the trip to Sweden, the train didn't come. And I can see I would get more and more kind of brave or do things I would never do. Like the train didn't come. So another train came so the Swedish train was missing in action. And the Danish train came through, and somebody said, well, come on, jump on this train with us. Come with us. And I'm thinking, I don't have a ticket. It violated every rule I had. But I did it. I would have never done that before. This has to be Jesus. And I jumped on the train without a ticket and got taken into Sweden. And then it happened again. So I got off and I go, oh, Jesus, please don't make me trade chains. Please don't, I'm going to go buy another ticket in Sweden to get it. But, I had some kind of paranoia about that. But I said, okay, I'll do it. And I bought my ticket. And then that girl comes walking along that I jumped the other train with. And she says, yeah, come with me. You can just get on this train. This train's going into Sweden. It's going deep into Sweden. No ticket again. And I get on the train with her, with the conductor of the food cart. You're talking, Matt, about food.
So I always am talking about food.
What?
I'm always talking about food. But Kate, before
well,
we go
you would have
farther,
liked this assignment.
I want to I kind of want to add some just kind of timelines here for the listeners. So around 2010, you're working as a counselor in the prison system, it sounds like.
Yes, as a coach, yes.
And that's when you start to hear a voice. Is that right?
Before that, probably in around 2000, 2 or 4, I started hearing a voice.
Okay. So when you get guidance, what is that? If you could just summarize what that means to you.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Well,
like, do you hear specific instructions, or do you get intuitive feelings? What?
Well, it's like Bali, I could feel it. It went boom like that. Or Jerusalem, I kind of knew on the train. I mean, I was flying back from India and then I heard, oh my God, in 2 weeks I'm going. It's sometimes like that. But now that my mind has been pure, now that I can hear him, like it's a complete conversation. I mean, that's really where this is headed, how he got me to the point of 24/7. Now it's 24/7 conversation. With
that's great. And so now you spend most of your time in Mexico, but you've done a lot of travels for kind of, is it your ministry, or what kind of work is that?
It was pure guidance. It's like I wanted to know the truth. And so I was listening and following, and he would just say, okay, or I see a picture. At first, it was more like symbols. Like I saw a picture of Arunachal and I could go, oh my God, I'm going to India and I can't go to India. It'd start like this. I can't go to India because, all right, Jesus, and then the next week, a trip would come in.
And once you got there, what was it, something you were called to do there? Were you doing counseling there, or were you just showing up and seeing where the winds brought you, or the voice actually?
So like in Jerusalem, I didn't have a clue. I mean, the first day I was on the bed crying. I'm serious. I woke up and I go, Jesus, I don't like traveling by myself. I'm afraid to travel. Oh my God, what am I going to do? And then I heard, well, pick up your iPad. And I looked on my iPad and the first thing that came up was the Garden Tomb in Jerusalem. And I could, it's like, boom, you could kind of feel it. And then I'm going, all right, I'll go. That's this conversation. How am I going to get there? All right, Jesus, where is it? I'll go. It's like that.
And then when you get there, what unfolds?
What unfolded there was, so I said, all right, I'll do it. And I walk outside my room and here comes the hotel manager going, I got somebody who wants to travel with you. Could travel. She's looking for a travel partner. We walk. He joins with me, walk 4 doors down, knock on the door. This is Jenny. Hi, Jenny. Jenny goes, where are you going? I'm going to the Garden Tomb. I'll take you. So in 15 minutes, I'm sitting in front of a symbol of the tomb open of Jesus right there. I mean, it was kind of obvious. Like it had to be obvious. And then I'm sitting there and I'd go pray there because it was profound. And then I was contemplating Mary Magdalene, thinking in front of the tomb. And I'm going, she's so devoted. Oh my God, I'm so touched. She's going to go see Jesus. He converted me over. I'm telling you, I'm St. Paul on the road to Damascus because I wanted nothing to do with Jesus. The last thing I wanted to tell my mom is that I'm talking to Jesus. Anyway, so this lady comes back up and she goes, oh, because I had a University of Wisconsin shirt on. She goes, you're from Wisconsin. It's like, well, yeah, I am. I wasn't at I had lived in Wisconsin. We started talking. And then her friend comes up and goes, yeah, we have a 5-day tour of the Holy Land every year. And I pay for it for 14 people. You want to come? And I'm sitting in front of the open tomb of Jesus going, I think that's a symbol. I got to go. So some things were obvious like that, but he was training me. I mean, I had so many assignments in Jerusalem. I wanted to stay in my room. I really did. But I would foray out. Like he gave me an assignment. Okay. Jenny introduced me to Solomon. He was Muslim. And she left, and he's somewhere in the maze of the old city of Jerusalem. This is a really good Holy Spirit one, really. And I go, okay. I mean, look how cooperative all right, I'll do it, Jesus. The number of times I've said that. I mean, now I don't say that, but so I went looking for him, and I couldn't remember where he was. So it's like, I'm kind of slinking back to my room going, can't find him. And then he goes, and then the next day, all right, I'll go look for him. So I'm in the maze. An old city of Jerusalem is a maze of shops. And I paused a minute. I go, I'm never going to find this guy. And the guy next to me goes, oh, what you looking for? I said, well, he'll never know this guy. I'm trying to find Solomon. He goes, I know Solomon. I worked for him for 10 years. Come over here. His brother's shop is 4 doors down. And out comes his brother. He walks me to Solomon. So I'm thinking, so I'm to listen to this. I'm to go talk to Solomon he's to teach me about the Quran. And I'm thinking, but Jesus, why am I? You see, you can't why Jesus. I don't why Jesus anymore. I just go, yes, Jesus. But anyway, so he teaches me about the Quran. And then a couple of days later, I'm walking through the markets of Jerusalem and I'm looking down at a table of books. And this guy comes up. He was clearly Muslim. I'm in the Muslim section. And he goes, well, what do you think? You're American. What do you think about their plans to divide Jerusalem? And I'm like, I don't know jack about that. That's like a powder keg to talk about. But what came out of my mouth was, how can love be divided? Now, that came from, I wouldn't have thought of saying, Jesus said that. He just starts talking through you. And the guy goes, yeah, you're right. It can't be. And then I said, well, didn't Muhammad teach love? And so guess what we talked about at that table in the middle of a war zone? We talked about love. Didn't Jesus? So, it's through, I just started following. And he sent me to Bali. I didn't know what I was doing. I got off a boat in Bali and I was just, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, I have no idea, like that. And then all of a sudden I get led, and then I could hear it. Okay, you're going to ride this motorcycle. I mean, and I didn't like motorcycles. I rode so many freaking motorcycles, and because he's going to bring the mind to the place where you're most fearful.
So I just want to get some clarity here about two things. I think one is that, and tell me if I'm wrong, just to correct it so we can get clear, that you ended up on a path of sorting through in a certain way your fears, but trusting completely in the voice in Jesus telling you to go through it as you went through what sounds like a kind of spiritual cleanse process of anything you were and then it was brought to the light in these fun, amazing ways. And the second thing that I would kind of categorize this as is, it's almost like you're having your own talk show radio with Jesus.
Yes.
You're now co-hosts almost in your own talk show radio where you can have complete conversations. And there's a response from Jesus, who is a little bit more than your co-pilot. He's your pilot who you go along with on this journey that brought you to where you've landed now and bringing us up so we can get to the forgiveness story. And what you're doing now, which I'd also love to hear about, but really I want to hear that where this brings in your forgiveness story that you want to share.
Well, it is all, following is forgiveness. Following is accepting miracles. It's accepting the change in mind. And it's a trust building, just like he says. So he led me step by step. And then, I don't know, somehow, well, what happened was I was sent to a Muji retreat and I was contemplating light at that retreat. And I'm thinking, I see this light. And if it's not here, I must have a desire for it not to be. And in that moment, the entire course crystallized, the entire course. It was like, oh my God, I understood it. I understood it was a desire not to see the light. It's not the light's not here, the light's here. It's not doing anything. And so within months, I was just typing and it evolved into Jesus in a one-on-one with him, coaching me. And I thought I had been forgiven my brains out, really. I've been forgiven. And I was willing to look at every relationship. I had already started looking at every relationship, but when he pulled out, he says, go to the course and pull out, search on You Believe. So I searched I got about 80 of them. I didn't know it was 80 at the time. And then he started showing me, he showed me, you believe in control. He'd say, see, this is a desire for an experience of control, or you believe your brother can steal heaven from you. And he'd go, this is a desired experience for your brother to feel that your brother can steal heaven. And I go, oh my God, I could feel it. He was right. He's always right. And so it just became that trust building of following. See, you can't go deep enough into the mind without that relationship. You can't get to the deepest levels of forgiveness without that following, because you won't trust him enough. And then I saw that no desire. I went to the last unanswered question, which is, am I willing to see what's true because it's been denied? My mind just locked on that. It's like, I am not having one true thing. I'm not going to have one judgment in my mind. Something just switched to the last unanswered question. And then that's when he can move in, because then he's showing me this and he's showing me that and this. And I started 24/7, show me Jesus. And he'd reveal the desire, and I could feel it. I could see the devil dancing down there. It's like, oh my God, I do want that. I do want my brother to steal heaven. And I don't want God, and I don't want a miracle. And I realized it was actually a course in where I didn't want miracles. I could see it. It's like, I don't want one shred of this miracle, But then I trusted him. The hardest thing I see for course students is that, trust would settle every problem, 100% in on the miracle. And then having Jesus show me, Jesus, am I ready for a miracle? He'd say, no, what? But he knows where there's scraps down there, where the miracle's not wanted. And then I'd go, oh, he's right. He's right every freaking time, and then it was just a conversation. And then I'd talk to him.
I would love to know, if you don't mind, what was your most challenging experience with this?
Well, there are a lot of them. Well,
really sit for a moment and take a breath, and let's see, truly, which one brought you so much angst it was really hard to move through it, and tell us how you did and how it went. We're better with specifics than generalizations here.
How I moved through it.
Yeah, something that
I just
got you stuck. It can be something even recently that got you stuck, and how you move through it.
I just have to say, I trusted. That's what gets you through it. And forgiveness. I decided, it's what he says. It's a decision in your mind. I decided not to have a single scrap. What happened and what got me through it before, I needed to know the truth. Mm-hmm. That's what got me through every single time. There was a part of me that said, I've got to know.
So give an example. A specific example.
It was I would say the borderland was hard, because in your mind, you're forgiven. It's like, Jesus, am I forgiven? Am I following you 100%? And am I forgiving 100%? But even when your mind goes, okay, I'm going to do it, I'm 100% in. It takes a lot of forgiveness and trust, because I'm going, where is the happiness, Jesus? Where is the supreme happiness that you promised me? Have I not been forgiven? And that's where I needed to hang on to his feet 100% and keep going. And then that joy started, and it would get more and more until now it's just, I'm sitting there just in joy. So that was challenging. You forget, it's funny. I mean, there were the challenge is the mixed desires, because you still have a desire for an experience of hell down there, mixed with wanting to know the truth. You see, and you don't see the power your mind has yet. Now yeah.
And is it easy for you now? Has it grown, much easier?
Well, yeah, because now I know. Mm-hmm. I have no mixed desires. I mean, it's what he says. You have to be 100%. I'm 100% God in his kingdom. I don't have anything else. Mm-hmm. It's hard when you're split desires.
Of course. Is there anything recently that comes up, or are you at a place where it's just now so handed over that you don't have any mixed anything and you're just in a complete...
Well, I have to ask him to have him tell me.
Okay.
Because I always ask him everything, because he calls it honesty.
Yeah.
God,
No, go
he's
ahead.
the honesty. But now, if I see I don't tolerate twitches, he told me, he said, you're too tolerant. And so now if it's something, I go immediately to him. In the middle part is the hardest part because you don't have a strong enough relationship with him. You see, and there's too many mixed desires to keep the world. See, once your mind switches and you have 100% in for God and you're 100% following, and I don't argue with him. If I hear something, I'm just so grounded now because the desires for something other than God have been released. So
that's just beautiful.
You won't go sideways because you see, you have to do the following, because I realized in following, I thought, oh, Jesus, look, I really did this. And, I followed you. But then I saw what the following was, accepting all the love of the Father. You see, through the following, you see what that is. And then
my question still is in here. Yep. I'm bringing it back to the Course for a moment. I just want to bring it to the Course. So did the Course give you an awakening to have you completely focus on the voice within that had been guiding you? Or are you actually continuing to read the Course or do any applied lessons within the Course for a continued, not relationship, not just, and I don't mean to belittle this in any way whatsoever, the relationship with Jesus, but your complete awakening to being one with love and that experience? Or is it just there's this constant dialogue that you're trusting? And again, the word just is not right here because that seems to belittle it, but it is the experience of meaning your life is about following, listening, trusting, and knowing the truth. What is that truth for you? Does it translate into pure love? Does it translate into, I'm going to keep doing lessons so that I remember this within relationships as well? What's it look like for you?
It looks like, Jesus, what's most helpful for healing my mind now? And just that thought is pure joy.
Got it.
Jesus, like tonight, he's having me talk about the power of thought. And so I hadn't really, sometimes for a while, he took me out of the Course totally. Now he's got me back in the Course reading sections, and then he does interpretation. It's exactly what he says. You let him tell you. So what I learned is that when I speak what he tells me, he's teaching me. That's learning.
Right.
That's right. And it kills off the ego. There's no spaciousness for the ego. So how does it translate? It's pure joy is how it translates. Because people say, well, do you see that you're not separate? Well, you don't. It's not in your mind.
Mm-hmm. You don't have use or need, for instance, the Course or the workbook or the lessons or reading that. You're just living, forget this Course and walk with me wholly unto God.
Well, no, for a while he had me. Now he'll have me read and then he interprets. Like I have conversations with him about the Course. Like I'm looking at Helen. He's having me look at Helen, what he told her about Freud and Jung. And then I asked Jesus because he wants this brought mainstream psychotherapy. I don't know how that's going to happen, but I trust him. And so now he teaches me. I'm just going, Jesus, I can't get through this. Have you read that stuff? It's like reading through, But then we've got a couple of mighties, and we get together and we listen. Okay, Jesus, what do you want? What is this that you're teaching about psychotherapy in that particular sequence in there? Like, so he had me talk the Course lessons. So I've done all the lessons. They're all on video, they're all for me. Mm-hmm. But he'll give me specific readings and then I'll talk to him about, well, what does this mean?
Well, can you give an example of that? I'm just fascinated.
Well, it's again, we're just this last week we met because to talk about psychotherapy. And like, okay, Jesus, when Freud was talking about, there's some line Freud said about the unconscious mind and in collective unconscious. And so then it's like, okay, because then Jung and Freud had an argument, what's collective unconsciousness? And then Jesus is very specific about where, Freud kind of went sideways and, and where his ego was involved. And so he's teaching what he wants taught about, the unconscious mind and how he wants this taught to psychotherapists. So I don't know how, I have to trust how it's going to happen, but into mainstream in a language that they can understand that's not so spiritual per se, but where what he taught is, he taught me how to look at, miracles happen at the level of desire. And so if you ask Jesus, he says, I'll reveal to you. So what I learned the fastest way is when you don't have heaven and hell upside down. So he shows you the desire for your brother to steal heaven. And then I would say, okay, Jesus, show me the denial of that. Show me how I want that experience of my brother denying heaven. And then he'd show me, and I could feel the wanting of it. It was like pure, I could see how I wanted that experience more than God. So now he's helping me, put it in words of forgiveness in a way that a psychotherapist or a therapist could understand it and incorporate it into their practice. Mm-hmm. So Jesus's version of forgiveness being put into psychotherapeutic practice, So I have to be able to speak their language, which I don't know anything about Jung or Freud. But here's the amazing thing. You want to hear, this is so cool. He led me to read, Jung was talking to the voice for God. And he's got that in his book, the Red Book, where he's talking to God and arguing with the voice for God in there. It's really good. It's really, you can hear the voice for God. Like a lot of the things Jung came up with came from who's talking to the voice,
Mm-hmm.
So it's very cool. Anyway, I hope that's the kind of example you're looking for. But there were many times, how I had to get through some things that were really hard. I just held on to Jesus's feet because I felt like I was in a firestorm. But see, once he coaches you, it's like if the problem is people won't talk, beings won't, in the course, won't talk to him. Because they're afraid of what he's going to ask them to do. Well, you got to get past that.
I definitely relate to that. Yeah. I don't want to hear that guidance.
Yeah.
I want the easy guidance, the easy button guidance, not the difficult.
Yeah. It's not like, it's like the number of times I said, well, you heard me. Like I was in Bali and I could hear it, you start to hear it. I could see those motor scooters. And it's like, oh my God, I cannot ride on a motorcycle. But I heard it and I trusted it. And I got on the motorcycle, and I was crashing into bushes and all this kind of stuff and riding. And then they're driving on the wrong side of the road, for crying out loud. But here's
it's correct to them, though.
Yeah.
Yes. But and I'm going, and what does the guy say before I take that scooter? He goes, we have no insurance here. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I better have the Holy Spirit insurance. But anyway, I'm riding on it, and all of a sudden I had a spiritual awakening experience on that thing, because all of a sudden I realized there was this joy, and I can't explain it. Jesus knows. I saw that it wasn't about the thing that you do. See, before that, it was always, if I did something, I'd be happy. Or, do you see? Or if there's certain people, be happy. But in that moment, I saw that, no, happiness is what is, It was a little glimpse. It was this joy, riding on a motor scooter. It was really, that's how you get glimpses.
Yeah. And the glimpses lead to bigger and bigger pictures. But, when you say people don't speak to Jesus because they're afraid, it's not only fear. I mean, I'd love there to be a manual for dummies, of how to speak to Jesus. It's that many people don't know the difference between their own voice and the voice of the Holy Spirit or Jesus, and they don't know how to distinguish the two in the beginning. And it gets very difficult. It's not just a clear, this is a separate voice and this is telling me something. I have had that my whole life where the voice is very delineated, but so many people I speak with can't. They just say, how do you tell the difference? So when you began with this, it sounds like the voice was very delineated from your normal ego speaking.
Well,
voice.
and not at first. It's that's why I keep saying to people, the Course in Miracles is so brilliant. It's like beyond brilliant. You guys already know that, but when you have the experience of it, you see the brilliance of this thing. That's why it's joining with mighty. So here's the first thing that Jesus teaches, says joining over 400 times. You join with a brother to try and hear the voice. It's like a tuning fork for the voice when you're joining. We will hear exactly as clearly as we desire it. There is nothing that stops that voice. That's our natural voice, but it's the mixed desires. And he says it's the value placed on the other voice, and it's joining. Joining is where the rubber hits the road. Joining to look deeply with Jesus into the mind and learn to hear his voice, to be guided to see where miracles are being avoided, like the plague. But joining is the way to hear his voice for beings to hear in A Course in Miracles. And I've said this, and I'm asking him if he wants me to say it. It's his book. Mm-hmm. The whole point of that book is to have a conversation with him, just like, 24/7. I ask him everything. What about this, Jesus? What about that?
What would you, and he say, and I'm just asking this for our listening audience, if someone doesn't want to join with you and ask?
Well, that's the option. It's question. Jesus said it's all about value. What do you value? Value knowing the truth, and it comes through your brother. When you join in truth together, remember it says in A Course, you can't fail to see the truth because of the power of gathering in his name.
Yes, but there's some who I say who don't want to join in truth. And what the Course also teaches, I just wanted to bring this in, is someone doesn't have to. It's wonderful if they do, but someone doesn't have to join with you in that truth for healing and forgiveness to still come.
Well, no, because there are many things that I healed. All I'm saying, once I saw that light, I would continually take things to the light. Yeah. Right? You can do it that way. But the deepest levels of the mind, for someone who wants an uber purified mind, if you want your mind 100% like the Course squeaky clean, then you're going to get that through joining. Mm-hmm. That's where it's going to come from, because the greatest fear is joining with God, and your brother symbolizes that. Mm-hmm. So what some Course students do is they keep themselves separate and go, it is an individual course, but salvation comes through the brother.
Mm-hmm. Hey, let me ask.
And it's not, I'll just tell you what I hear him saying. It is not getting together to discuss the Course. It is getting together to hear Jesus and learn to be guided by him.
Yeah.
That's the most valuable use of time for A Course in Miracles. Mm-hmm. Is join with your brother and look at where you don't want, where you're denying yourself miracles.
Okay, when you get into an ego storm, can you summarize what you do to kind of get back on track for listeners in a very practical way?
Yeah. Ego storms.
Where it just comes in and you're wrong-minded and it seems real and you're judging it. And then,
well, with the hardest things, I would say, this is bringing me to those, was like when I was really doing deep looking, and I would get super sick, like just these horrific. So now Tam's bringing me back to some of that. I'd have horrific headaches. I had to be, I'm just saying, I am determined to see. It took I just would have to say no. It took every bit of determination. I'm going to see the truth in this. I don't care what it takes. That's what I would do.
Okay.
And because your mind gets stronger and stronger. And like now, if I have something sore or a bit of soreness and I'm going to walk down the stairs and say, Jesus, do I need to feel this? And he goes, no, you can say no to it. See, then your mind becomes, and you just say, no, I don't need to have that. I either ask him, do I need a miracle? What do we do here?
Yeah.
Going straight.
I would just say to students, if you want to talk to him, join. Really.
Yeah.
If you want to get clarity on the voice, join with your brother. It's going to help a lot.
Yeah.
And you mentioned you're in New Orleans. Can you just tell us, your favorite comfort food? It doesn't have to be from New Orleans, could be from anywhere. Just something fun you enjoy.
Well, then I'll ask Jesus that even, but he would say, I love crawfish.
Oh yeah. The spicy ones, right? Spicy.
Yeah. Pretty spicy. I do pretty spicy. In New Orleans, it would probably be crawfish or boudin. One of those two.
Mm.
Well, Cay, why don't you tell us your website and how people can connect with you online?
Well, we have the Light Brigade on Facebook, the Joining in Light Brigade on Facebook. You can join, and that's where we encourage beings to come share what Jesus is teaching you. See, when you speak what Jesus is teaching you, it helps you learn it deeper. We have a website, joininginlight.net, for those who want to really go deep on hearing that voice. We have a 90 Days with Jesus program at the center, Joining in Light Devotional Center, where it's pure every day. You're learning to journal. You're learning to talk to him. And it's beautiful. I can share some of those with you guys if you want to hear Jesus is very straight talking. Well, Tam, if you're talking to him, you know that. But he will give very specific and direct, if you're willing, here's what you need to look at. Here's how to look at it. He will do that. He really will. But I see it. I get it. There was a lot of trust and follow, and at first we want the world, the play.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The play is, we think happiness and the world is upside down. But here's the thing. You start talking to Jesus, he'll show you. Here's where, in fact, it's profound. Like Kathleen told the story of Jesus coaching her. I think it was I can't remember if it was a urinary tract infection or something. And what she saw, he showed her where heaven and hell was flipped upside down. He showed her that she liked roasting herself on a spit of heat and turning the crank. She was both, she was the creator of it. She was the one that wanted it, and she liked it. She liked the experience. Like on the surface, we're going, this is terrible. It's horrible. And then Jesus takes you down there and says, look right here. You love every minute of a headache or suffering. And when he showed me that, and I could see that every fiber of my being wanted that headache. When he brought me down there because heaven and hell is flipped. And he'll show you where you think a headache is happiness. Now that's profound. Where do you get that kind of training? Except with Jesus psychotherapy. Yeah. I didn't know that I loved pain. Who's going to say that in this world?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. By the way,
I'm like, revelation.
What?
If you watch political debates, then you love pain.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right there. But Cay, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your miracle voice. We really appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
Yes. Thank you.
Everything he promises is in that course.
Thanks so much for listening today. Please subscribe to Miracle Voices by hitting the subscribe button on your podcast app. If you are enjoying these conversations, please consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever podcast app you use. And lastly, please visit us at miraclevoices.org and join our newsletter so we can stay connected. Until the next podcast, I want to leave you with my favorite course quote, "When you want only love, you will see nothing else."